If I was to say to you, let's have a bet on the outcome of a coin toss, would you be prepared to give it a go? Two things you need to know first of all is, what is the probability of you winning? And of course, with any normal coin, of course, it's 50-50. It's either going to come up heads or tails. So if I'm betting heads and you're betting tails, you have a 50% chance of winning. I have a 50% chance of winning. That's pretty straightforward. The other thing is, what is your payout? I mean, obviously, if I said to you, I'll give you $1 if it wins, you give me $1 if it wins, then we should both fairly well come out even, because every time you win, you're $1. Whereas if I said to you, look, every time you win, I'll give you 90 cents. Every time I win, you need to give me $1.10. All of a sudden, it's an unfair game. And yet, ironically, that's exactly how casinos and sports betting bookmakers and that operate their business, and most of us don't even give it a second thought. But let's just suppose I'm a fair person, you want to play the game, I will pay you $1 if it comes up tails, you pay me $1 if it comes up heads. And it's a fair coin, and it's always going to give you a 50-50% chance of winning or losing. The other thing you will need to know is, what's the worst case scenario? While it's true that you do have a 50% chance of winning, another thing that most people don't even take into consideration is long losing streaks. Now, just because a coin, fair weighted coin, is always going to land up heads or tails, and it should, in theory, over the course of a long spin duration, come up fairly even, there could be times where you may lose 5, 10, 15, 20 times in a row. And have you got enough money in your bank account to sustain such a long losing streak? Now, when we're looking at a fair game like a coin toss, we probably don't even give that a second thought, because we just consider that, well, the longest losing streak may be, 2, 3, 5 spins in a row. And this is why it's important, before we start trading or investing our money, to make sure we understand not just the rules of the game, but the probability of success, but also what is the worst case scenario. And this is why it's important that we backtest our trading strategies. It's all well and good to say, look, I've found this trading strategy where, 2 moving averages cross each other and I buy, and when they cross on the upside, I sell, and all those sorts of things. And it seems to be a good system, and I've tried it over the last month or two and it seems to work. That's great. But how does it work over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Is it eventually going to wipe out your entire bank account because of one long losing streak? And have you tested it to see if that's happened in the past? And if so, how often can you expect it to reoccur again into the future? Now, I want to give you a little example. I'm just going to write a very quick little program here to do a quick test, to backtest this coin tossing theory. Now, I'm going to write a program in a code called PHP. And look, if you're not a computer programmer, that's totally fine. You don't need to be. Just follow along with me. I'm just going to write this really quickly. And I'll explain the logic as I go, and hopefully, even if you're not a computer programmer, the logic is very, very simple and should make sense. And if you're a computer programmer, then, please don't pull me up for all my mistakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a simulation of a coin toss. Let's just say we've got a coin, and we'll say at the moment it's sitting on 0. We're going to enter into a loop, which is a simulation of saying we're going to do 10 games. So I'm just going to say I equals 0. Don't worry about this. This is just saying we're starting at nothing. We're going to keep playing this game until we've had 10 rounds of it. And I++ just means at the end of the loop, just go around and do it again. So this is what they call in programming a for loop, where it basically says we're starting at 0. We want to keep going through this loop until we've reached 10. And at the end of each loop, we increment the game just to make sure it goes through again. Again, I don't want to get you confused. This is just a quick program just to do this. Now, what I'm going to say is I am going to say the coin is now equal to a random number between 1 and 2, because it's either heads or tails. And then we are going to put the coin on the screen to show us what it is. So we echo it back, and that's it. Okay. Oh, actually, at the end of that, I'm going to put a carriage return. Okay, I'm going to save that. Let's have a look at this program running. Okay, so when I actually execute this program, you can see it's randomly generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 numbers between 1 and 2. So let's just say 1 was heads, 2 was tails. Let's come up tails, heads, tails. And obviously if I refresh this, you can see that it automatically changes the numbers because they're randomly generated. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So knowing now that that makes sense, let's just jump into the program and change a couple of the parameters. I'm now going to say if the coin lands on heads, do this. Otherwise, do this. Okay, and this will be obviously echo that we've just lost. And if it comes up here, we will tell ourselves that we have won. So I no longer need to do this. I'll keep the carriage return in here, however. Okay, so let's save that. And now, of course, when we execute it, we either lose or win because it's either come up heads, tails, tails, heads. Okay, so rather than just putting numbers, we're putting winning and losing. The other thing we need to know in our backtesting strategy is we need to have a bank account. So we'll have a bank account and we'll set it at $100. Okay, we're playing with $100, and if we win, we say our bank equals what we started with in our bank plus, let's say, $10. We're playing $10 per trade. If we lose, our bank is going to be minus $10 because we've lost. Okay, and then after we've been through all of our games, we want to know what is our bank account now standing at. Okay, let's save that. Let's refresh that. Okay, we now know that we lost that, so our bank's at 90. We won, so we're back to 100, and so it goes. So we had a pretty good run this time, and we're actually up $20. Refresh it. We broke even. We're actually down $60. So you can see that even over a course of 10 games, we can either be up $20 or down $60 or somewhere in between. Up 40, breaking even, up 20, and so it goes. Let's now do this. And one other parameter we want to add in here now is what is our longest losing streak? Because while it doesn't matter now while we're only playing 10 games, let's have a look at what it's going to look like if we're playing thousands of games, which we'll do in a second. So I'm going to put losing streak so far equals nothing because we don't have a losing streak, and the winning streak equals nothing because we don't have a winning streak. And the other thing we're going to want to know as well is what is our longest losing streak and what is our longest winning streak. I hope you're still with me. I hope this is making sense. Okay, so now what we need to do when we win is we add to our winning streak so that if it comes back a winner, it adds to the winning streak, and so it goes. So we say winning streak plus plus, which means we basically add into our winning streak, and our losing streak we're now setting back to 0 because we've won. So our losing streak is set back to 0, of course. We're no longer in a losing streak. And we do the exact opposite if we lose. So winning streak equals 0 because we're no longer winning, and losing streak plus plus. And then the next question we need to ask is, when we've come out of this loop, is our losing streak bigger than our original losing streak or winning streak bigger? And we just want to know which is our longest streak. Again, stay with me, it's going to make sense. So we say if it's greater than longest, and we'll do the same for our winning streak. And then right at the end, I want to show the bank. I want to show the longest losing streak and the longest winning streak. And I think that's okay. Let's just run this program now to see if it works. Okay, yes it does. So our bank is now at $100, as we can see. We can see also that our longest losing streak was 2 in a row. Lose, win, lose, win. So we got 2 wins. Lose, win, win. We got 2 wins there, and we got 2 losses. So our longest losing streak was 2 in a row. Our longest winning streak was 2 in a row. Let's refresh it and do it again. Okay, we had a long winning streak here of 3. 1, 2, 3. So you get the idea. So now we're just about set to run this. Oh, longest losing streak, 5. Lose, lose, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you get the idea. We've actually lost 5 in a row. And this is only over a game of 10 spins. Our bank's down $40 because we're now sitting on 60. We had a losing streak of 5 in a row. So, and that's only with 10 games. So as you can see, as we do this, are you going to be able to sustain a huge game where we play 100 or 1,000 or 10,000? And let's do it and have a look right now. What I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to show all these numbers here just to speed the game up. Otherwise it's going to slow us down. Okay, that should be okay. Let's have a quick look. So what I'm saying is I'm not going to show whether we won or lost. We know this is working. All we're really interested in is this. What did that show? Hang on 2 seconds. Okay, so we're right to go. So we know we had, the other thing we want to know is how many games have we played. So we'll put a counter in here to say games. And so far we've played 0. And in here we will put that we'll game plus. And here we will put. Okay, so now we know we've had 10 games. Okay, so when we increase that we can obviously show. Alright, so let's do that right now. So at the moment we've been playing for 10 games. Let's make it 100. Have a look at that. Okay, 100 games. Our bank's now at $80. We've lost $20. We had the longest losing streak of 5 and winning of 6. Let's go to 1,000 games. Okay, so you can see as we go through this, we now have a bank at $200, which is great. We doubled our money, but we did have to suffer a losing streak of 8 in a row. And you may not have been in a position to do that at the time if your bank account had depleted. Let's jump now. We played 1,000. Let's go to 10,000. Okay, 14 games in a row. Your bank is now at negative $240. Bearing in mind you only started with 100. So you may not have been in a position to sustain this kind of game. Now, of course, you're probably not going to stand around long enough either to play 10,000 games, but it does give you a bit of an indication that even a fair game at a 50-50% chance of winning or losing can still knock you out sometime within the game purely because you don't have the money or the capital to sustain you through a series of losses. Let's do 1,000,000 games and see what happens. Okay, you ready? 1,000,000 games. Ooh, your bank's at $6,500. So not a bad run if you could sustain it. And of course, if you had the legs to stay on over a course of 1,000,000 games. But of course, starting with $100, you're now up to $6,500, but you did have a losing streak of 19 in a row. And one more, we're going to go really crazy here and we're going to do 100 million. 100 million games, which is of course impossible to sustain physically. I mean, you know, standing on your feet to play 100 million games, it's next to impossible, but just to show you what would happen over a really, really long course of events. Okay, you played 100 million games. At some point in that, your $100 has become negative $93,420. You had to suffer a losing streak of 24 in a row. You get the idea. So the bottom line is this. Even in a fair game, like a coin toss, where it's either heads or tails and you've got a 50-50 chance of winning or losing, you do need to understand that these games will not always play out 50-50. They're not always going to come up heads, tails, heads, tails. You're going to suffer long streaks of losses, 24 in a row in this case, which can completely, of course, devastate and completely wipe out your entire bank account. Now, if that can happen in a fair game, what kind of battering could your account take in the stock market where you're trading a system or a strategy where you think, hey, I've tried this, I've tested this over 5 weeks or 5 months, and I'm doing a moving average crossover and it looks good. This is why it's so important to backtest your strategy over long periods of time. In this case, 100 million games, a little bit over the top, I get that. But as you saw, over 10 games, it was always kind of fair. When you did 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, that's where we started to see the problems occur. And they will happen. So the bottom line is this: money management is so critical in trading, making sure that you don't allow yourself to get caught up in these losing streaks, which inevitably will happen sometime or another. And this is why backtesting your strategy over long periods is going to ensure you that you have even more confidence and a surety in knowing that you've tested the system thoroughly over not just 6 months or 12 months, but 10 years, 20 years of data.